Your artist just heard the spatial audio mix of their new lead single. They hate it. They say it sounds thin, small, and disconnected compared to the stereo version they've been living with for months. The problem isn't the technology. The problem is a fundamental breakdown in how the industry is handling these assets. When an artist disowns a master, you don't just have a creative conflict, you have a marketing disaster and a production bottleneck that stalls your entire release schedule. I'm Pat Mavromatis. I've mixed iconic records in Atmos like Roberta Flack's Killing Me Softly and Feel Like Making Love. And today we're talking about why artists reject Atmos mixes, how to salvage a failing project, and most importantly, the best way to protect your brand and your artist's long-term career momentum in a market that is leaving stereo-only thinking behind. In the current music economy, a failed immersive mix, one that feels like a weak translation of a stereo master, is a financial liability. Data shows that when a listener perceives a loss of punch or vibe in spatial audio, skip rates spike by 20 to 30% in the first 30 seconds. On Apple Music, those skips are catastrophic. They signal the algorithm to deprioritize your music in discovery playlists. You didn't just pay for a mix, you paid for a bottleneck that's actively sabotaging your artist's career momentum. When your artist rejects an Atmos mix, they aren't being difficult. They are reacting to the, call it, energy collapse that happens when a production lacks the proper technical intent, especially in spatial audio. Why does the artist feel that disconnect though? It's usually because the immersive mix is treated as a reconstruction rather than a primary production. Let's look at some of the issues. Number one, the energy collapse, the retrofit problem. Stereo mixing relies on glue, bus compression and limiting that creates a wall of sound. When you retromix into Atmos, that glue disappears. The result sounds a little more polite and loose. The artist feels like the soul of the track has been sucked out. Number two, the disconnected vocal. In a stereo-first workflow, the vocal is often engulfed, buried in stereo processing. When moved to an object workflow without the right strategy, it sits in its own, dry bubble, making the artist sound like they're singing over a backing track rather than leading the band. It feels like a low-budget effort. It feels like a demo. Number three, the fake Moss translation. When labels use budget shops to quickly convert limited stem masters, they often end up with fake Moss. I call it fake Moss. I'm referring to digital upmixes that lack object-based intent. Artists hear the digital artifacts and the lack of weight immediately. You cannot trick their ears, and you certainly can't trick Apple's engineers and their ingestion tools. And the mix will get rejected. So, how do we fix this? If you have a project that is already in trouble, there are three main technical salvage strategies. Number one, the front wall strategy. Anchoring core power elements like the kick, the snare, bass, and the lead vocal to the front LCR field to preserve the impact the artist expects. Number two, binaural metadata optimization. manually tagging objects and assigning objects with specific render modes. A lead vocal should never be like a far. It needs to be near or off to retain that intimacy on headphones. This is just an example. There's many of these strategies, right? Number 3, the DNA reference check. Constant A/B testing against the original intent on multiple listening environments, on your headphones, smart speakers, and so on. If the Atmos mix doesn't feel like it has the same soul as the song the artist wrote, it is not finished. But if you want the ultimate solution, the one that protects the brand from day one, you have to change the production strategy entirely. At the Living Room Studios, we advocate for immersive-first mixing. Instead of mixing for the lowest common denominator, stereo, and trying to upscale it later, we mix for the highest standard first. The immersive master is the definitive statement. We build the mix in a 3D field from the start. This ensures the energy and punch are native to the immersive experience, not a simulation of it. Stereo as a high-fidelity byproduct, because the mix is built with the full dynamic range of the immersive field. The stereo version we produce is tighter and more cohesive. It isn't a separate, disconnected process. It's a perfectly aligned outcome that retains 100% of the artist's DNA. If you are a manager or a label exec, my suggestion would be to stop looking at immersive audio as a post-production task. See if viewing it as your primary production strategy might make more sense. When you treat immersive as a byproduct of stereo, you risk the artist hating the result and the DSPs rejecting the file if you submit it anyway. When you move to an immersive-first workflow, you secure both the legacy of the music and the health of your streaming revenue in one move. If you have a major release coming up and you want to ensure the identity of the artist is preserved across every format, including Dolby Atmos, Oro 3D, and Eclipse Audio on YouTube, reach out. Click the link in the description to request a project briefing. Or if you want to find out how to turn your old live recordings into new spatial audio revenue, watch this video here.